Okay, so we're going to work with our stamps and talk about slip trailing today. I would go ahead and find all of them and then test them on an actual piece of clay. Like smooth this out and then see what they actually look like once you stamp them. Okay. Ooh, not really an in-between. So give that a shot and kind of look at them and see how they turn out, and then kind of think to yourself, what do you like? Okay, so that's kind of what you have to work with. And I would look at them and kind of think about, okay, what kind of designs, what kind of patterns could I make with them? And just experiment with that. Maybe you want to have, do like a radial design. And you have these that would work with it too, with these points that you could possibly like fit in. This would be kind of neat just as like a design to work those together. You could even continue this around, right, if you wanted to, and connect it to like another radial place on the back, like the front and the back of it. Okay, so that's kind of a way that I would go about this and of experimenting. Like, how can you use them together rather than just like going stamp, 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 stamp. Okay, and make some type of design with them. These even kind of line up really nice with them in that direction. Sometimes it does happen where you try and stamp these and they're just a little bit twisted and you wish that you would have like got it straight up and down, okay? And so what you can do is make a mark like down on the side of this, okay? So that lines up with this, the point of it. So then when you go to stamp this on a piece, you would be able to see where the top of that is, okay? So just making some marks on the outside of these stamps are always a good idea if you're trying to like line them up like over and over again. Okay, so think about that. You don't have to use all of them. And the way that I try to explain this is you need to have 50% of it covered, but that's with the slip trailing, okay, that we looked at, that looks like this, and the stamping. So you're not like trying to entirely like cover this. We're trying to be intentional and create some type of design, okay? We're not just trying to plaster stamps all over the side of it. Okay, so think about what you would want to do, and I would work it out on a piece of clay just on the table. Because if you mess up, then you can, you know, grab another piece and try it again. Stamping is pretty permanent, okay, where you can't really undo it. And so you really want to make sure that you have this done correctly, okay, and that you know what you want this to look like. Okay, I need everybody's eyes up there, okay? So now let's say that this is what I want to do, okay? I want to stamp this on the front. I want to stamp this on the back, okay? And if you've done anything before where you're trying to connect it, if you draw, like you would put one here, do the next one, and you keep going, and then you get to the back where they meet back up, and you think, oh my gosh, I don't have enough room for 2 stamps, but I'm going to have too much room if I just have one, okay? Like that awkward kind of step. And so what I show people, and I think this is a good thing to think about, is you want to divide your pot and you think, like, I want to put a stamp here, but I also want to put a stamp over here, okay? And I'm going to work, like, mathematically with this, and I want a design on each side. Okay, so I'm going to stamp in a different way so I can make sure that I don't have like a funny gap. Okay, so I'm going to do like one on this side. Okay, so I'm going to stamp, and this is just a little cylinder because I don't want to do this on someone's pot and then mess it up, right? Like I can't undo it, and so I want it to be your pot and not mine. So I'm going to go ahead and press this. You are going to have something behind it. Okay, and you're going to have to press and kind of wiggle it both ways. this is like you can't just like press into it because then you're going to like collapse it. Okay. You have to be equally pressing back when you're pressing with the stamp. Okay. So you would need to push and do that. So I'm going to put one on the front and I'm going to put one on the back. Okay. So then I know, and you can like put this back in. You can see how that side, I didn't put anything behind there or push. And so that side didn't really show up. Okay, good. I can line it back up and push again. Okay, so I've got one on the front, one on the back, and this kind of helps me decide, okay, I've got the same amount on this side as I do on this side. Okay, so I can go ahead and start doing what I wanted to. Where is that stamp? There we go. So I can make my pieces on this side, and then I can flip and do the same thing over here. I feel like this is the best way to make it look like you didn't run out of room. Okay, but I'm pressing from the inside and pushing down. And this might be that we need to, for some people, we would have to use some kind of tool. Probably put like a plastic bag or something like bigger in there to kind of be a kind of a force to press against. Okay, and that would be something I could come around and help you with. But you can, does this make sense why you would do this? To like make things more even, because then you'll be able to finish your pattern without something funny. Okay, because I'm gonna have the same amount of room on all these sides. Okay, so it doesn't look like I have something that ends up with a funny blank spot. Okay, so that's what we would do with the stamping. Press from behind when you press that stamp on. Okay, so this is one thing. You would want to get all your stamping done first. Okay, maybe you want a row on the top, maybe you want a row on the bottom, maybe you just want some radial things on the front and the back. Okay, and then you have slip trailing. Slip trailing is the opposite of stamping in my opinion, because this is very forgiving. Okay, like you can mess up and you just wipe it off. Okay, these are just Elmer's glue bottles. Okay, these work the best. And I've made a whole bunch of them. The clay inside of this, or the slip inside of this is, has been put through like a strainer, okay, like a sieve. And so it's really, really nice and smooth, and there's not any of that like bumpy grog inside of it, okay? And so this one is thin enough that you can write with it, okay? You would just adjust the top of this just like you would a glue bottle and draw, okay? Okay, guys, we got to look up here. We're not moving our hands and working. Okay, this one is way too, it should not be like so thick, and it should not give your hand a cramp trying to like squeeze this bottle. Okay, so this would need the top of this opened up and a little bit of water put in and then shaken up. Okay, but we do need to keep the tops of these twisted down and not use this for scoring and slipping. Even though this is like super convenient, this clay is a pain to make. Okay, so you want to make sure that you only use it for the slip trailing. So I'm going to adjust this, and then I'm just going to practice on the table just to kind of get an idea of what this feels like. You have to, when these start to run out, make sure all the clay is pushed down to the bottom, because you'll get like an air pocket, okay, and it will kind of pop on you. And so you have to kind of think about it, but you want to experiment with like, what designs do I want to make with this? Okay, but you're drawing with the clay, and this is just liquid clay. It's just slip. Okay, it's the exact same thing, but you can see that this is easily destroyed, right? So this is something that has to be done at the end. Again, this is something that we're not going to completely cover the entirety of the pot with, okay? We're just using it on certain areas to create some type of design, okay? So we're learning two different techniques, the stamping and the slip trailing. If you draw all over the table and you have lots left, I would just put this back in and try again. Okay, and then the nice thing with your pot too, if you, you might go on this and kind of think about, what do I want to, well, look at that bubble. Is that focused where you could see that? Let's see, where it just popped. So, it can be finicky sometimes. You might test it on the table, make sure it's ready, and then you can kind of think about, like, what do I want to add? Okay, but look at that, where I had a bubble. So you've got to think about what you want, where you want this to go, and then you have to be really careful with it because it's easily smudged off, which is a good and a bad thing, right? It's easy to take off, but you might not want it to go away. Okay, so kind of think about what you want it to be. Practice. If you don't like it, then try something different. Okay, but you're looking at putting different designs on it, and then you can always take those off if you don't like them. Okay, they do leave, if you're making like a dot, they leave kind of a, I don't know, like a Hershey's Kiss, okay, like a point on the top of them. If you don't push these down, those will be like little knives. They'll be so sharp. And so once this dries a little bit, we do want to like press those down and make sure that it's like rounded instead of pointy. And you want to realize that slip trailing that looks like this will not show up, okay? Because there's no height to it, right? It's like barely there. So it needs to be puffy for it to show up. It needs to have some height. If it looks like this over here, it is not going to show once you put glaze on top of it. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at today, is working on stamps, working on slip trailing, working on handles, practice and experiment, see what kind of designs you can come up with, and let me know if you need help.